Good evening, everyone. And guys, we are going to start in next 5 minutes. Till then, you can wait. Today we have our very special speaker from the industry. We have Apoorv sir with us. So, guys, wait for next 5 minutes to charge this webinar. I think. Hello everyone, and let's start with today's tech talk. We have Apoorv Kumar sir with us, and let's welcome sir on the behalf of Dot Questionmark family and Incubate family. Hello sir. Hi sir.
Hey Sarthak, hello everyone.
I think.
Okay, so I think Sarthak, let me know when I can start.
Yes, sir. So basically, sir is the industrial expert and work with various industries and various segment. I think, sir, you have worked with almost each and every domains exist in the technological field. Sir has worked with AIML, AIML, and I think you are the expert in fintech. I was searching on the internet and I was, reading some of the articles, then I get to know more about you. So, without wasting any time, I would like sir to start with this particular TED talk. And guys, this will be the best TED talk ever we have with us. Over to you, sir.
All right, thanks a lot, Sarthak, for the kind words. Thank you everyone for taking out the time this evening. Hopefully, I will be able to share some information which is useful to everyone. Let me share my screen and then we can proceed. Give me 1 second. Sarthak, I'm hoping you can see my screen.
Yes, sir. Now all can see your screen.
All right, great. So just to give a quick introduction, I am an IIT Guwahati undergrad. After that, I moved into I had a computer science background, but then after that, I moved into the world of finance. Goldman Sachs, I spent a few years there working in the asset management side of things. We were maintaining and managing assets for some major institutions and high net worth individuals. There I got to see the entire expanse of asset management industry, starting from the analytics involved in asset management, also on the trading side of things. After that, I wanted to get more exposure into the Indian fintech, and I joined an Indian lending fintech called 𝘱𝑑 Loans. I was one of the founding members heading the technology data science teams there. So that gave me a good background in what is happening in the AI front, as well as how it is impacting things on the fintech in the fintech industry. So in case anyone isn't interested, I'll put my LinkedIn link. Feel free to ping me on LinkedIn if you have any questions or feedback after this talk. Let me take everyone through a very quick overview of what the talk would cover. So first, we'll talk about what are the typical fintech areas where all these AI ML related technologies are actively being used. Secondly, we'll cover what is workflow automation. That is one of the most important areas in which AI and ML has impacted the entire industry. Thirdly, we'll talk about modeling and analytics. Now, any AI and ML based platform is driven out of a model at its very core. So we'll talk about how people build those models and then the analytics behind it. At the very end, I would like to keep a good amount of time for Q&A. I'll also pause in between to take some questions, but at the very end, I would definitely want to keep some dedicated time for it. So let's start. So I'll cover quickly the areas in which I have seen AI and ML making a big impact. So starting with lending, everyone knows about lending, probably the hottest area there is right now. Basically, you allow people to tap into their future income for a need that they have presently. We have a lot of new age fintechs available. Even the banks are trying to automate a lot of their processes involved in lending, because this is probably the highest margin product in all of finance. Secondly, we have payments. Payments is in a relatively mature state in India now, with UPI coming in a few years back. Pretty much everyone has adopted UPI. There are competing technologies coming up. There is an umbrella entity being formed by Google, Amazon, and a few other big players, and that is probably going to compete with NPCI, which is floating UPI right now as the standard for payments. Thirdly, asset management. This is not usually talked about, but is just as important as anything else. It's probably, you would also hear the name wealth management. Now, this is where you have built a good amount of savings amount and then you want to grow it over time. So you are not crushed by the inflation. India is a high inflation country. So if you own 10 rupees this year, and if you continue to own 10 rupees next year, you'll be able to purchase less amount of goods next year as opposed to what you can do today. So India suffers from high inflation, and therefore it is important that you constantly grow your assets, passive growth, just to make sure that you beat inflation and also have some growth on top of it. Fourthly, I would touch upon personal finance. Now, in India, we have never had personal finance in our curriculum. The only source of knowledge has been the hearsay that we get from our neighbors and relatives. Last but not the least, there is an interesting group of solutions coming up called the liquidity solutions. Now, one of the liquidity solution is a credit card, but credit card has very limited penetration in India. Close to 5% of the less than 5% of the country has access to credit card, and that's not going to grow dramatically by itself unless there are major interventions. And those interventions are often of the form of coming up with new solutions to deal with it altogether, rather than just giving everyone a credit card. So a liquidity, how the way it is different from a typical lending is that it's based on your current income, something that you have already earned, but you don't have direct access to. For example, if you have a 30-day pay cycle, which is very standard in India, you have worked for 15 days, but maybe you do not have access to the 15 days worth of salary. You have to wait for the entire month to be over, although you have worked for those 15 days, to get access to what you have already earned. So a liquidity solution would allow you to withdraw after 15 days or whatever period of the month when your money is actually locked in with the employer. I'm working with quite a few interesting fintechs right now, and they are building some really innovative and breakthrough technologies in this particular segment. Again, feel free to ping me on LinkedIn. Happy to talk about this particular industry, which I'm very passionate about. So the way AI and fintech, AI has impacted fintech can be seen in the entire workflow that any typical fintech product sees. So I have put in front of you a very standard workflow that this is probably the most generic part of the entire fintech industry. Is the first part is that you have to acquire customers. They have to come onto your platform, and that costs a lot of money. We have very expensive Google and Facebook and maybe a few other platforms, depending upon what your core target segment is, dominate the entire customer acquisition. So for example, if you want to get a customer on your lending app, now you have to put advertisements on Google and Facebook in order to attract those customers. Otherwise, and because of this domination and sort of duopoly or oligopoly is where there are a very limited number of options in the market. Now, because of this setup, these guys have made it very expensive to acquire customers. So it is absolutely critical that we follow very smart methods of advertising and acquiring these customers in order to keep the cost low. I'll go deeper into the aspects of customer acquisition, but typically it involves smart advertising, result attribution, that would involve what is the activity that you did that got you the most amount of customers, and then being able to adjust all of your strategies in real time. The second bit is always, because India is a very regulations heavy country, pretty much every product requires you to do some anti-money laundering checks, which involves a KYC norm. So that typically involves a liveness check, which makes sure that people are actually there in front of the camera and it's not an image being posted. Secondly, you would want to do a facial recognition to make sure the person is exactly is who they are claiming to be. Then we have document OCR, so a person can upload a ton of documents, Usually it would take a lot of effort to go through all of those documents, whereas if you are able to extract the text out of it, you can write algorithms to do things much quicker. And we all are aware of how biometrics has impacted the entire system with the advent of Aadhaar. The last bit is the analytics and the decision making behind whether to provide a service to a particular customer, if they are fit for it, how to provide it, and at the end, if there are multiple options available, what to provide among all of those options. So example would be credit underwriting, where the problem ends up being that given all the information you have about a customer, would you want to give them a loan or not? If And this question can go wrong in two ways. If you answer a lot of them with no, your business becomes unviable because you don't have enough customers. But if you answer too many questions of whether to lend or not with yes, you might end up giving loans to people who are maybe fraudulent, or people who do not have the ability to pay back that loan. And that will again make your business non-viable. The second example would be smart investments, where a person will provide you with the targets they have in life, and your analytics engine can go in the back and figure out what are the right avenues for them to invest. Certain investments are good for short-term solutions. Some certain require you to be invested for a long time. For example, equity markets, where the volatility is very high, and that causes very major changes in the short term, but over time people have an understanding that the markets will continue to grow. But then not everyone might be satisfied. For example, if it's someone's retirement fund, they might need to tap into it on a very short basis, so they would like to keep it at a relatively low level of risk. The third bit is fraud detection, and this is probably the older of all of these aspects that you are seeing. This started with credit card transactions, particularly in the Western countries, where credit cards have been popular for a very long time. So given a transaction, you can get the location at which the transaction is being done at. You can get what is the transaction being done for. For example, what is the thing that is being bought, and then you can build models. So if you have a good understanding of who your user is, you would be able to gauge, okay, if the person is probably 50 years old, it's less likely that they would be buying a PlayStation. So if someone buys a PlayStation, it could very well be a fraudulent transaction. And you can use all of those behavioral analytics to identify such a fraud. Then we have automated customer support, which is one of the key components in the entire workflow. Is when a customer gets stuck or needs a nudge, how would you make sure that you can do it at the lowest cost possible and with the easiest interface provided to the customer? For example, if a customer calls you up and it takes you 10 minutes to identify what is happening with the loan application of the customer, that's not a very good customer experience, and they would probably move on to a different platform. This also adds to their turnaround time. If they need money immediately, you would want the entire process to be real time, and any sort of support should also be real time for that. Now, one of the critical things in the entire flow is that automating this entire flow also makes everything cheaper. And when things become cheaper, you can provide it to a much wider audience. In India, the income inequality is very well documented. So top 10% of the people own something like 70-80% of the wealth. And similarly, the lower strata of the economy, people who are making less than 10,000 rupees per month, these guys get delegated to a place where formal banking is just not available to them, because all of these steps are so expensive that none of the entities are able to provide them these services. Whereas if these are automated real time with very limited investment in terms of human resources, it becomes cheap enough that suddenly it's democratized and it's available to a much wider audience. So before I go deeper, what I'll do is in the next steps, I'll pick one of the aspects of each of these three parts of the workflow to give you a flavor of what each of these parts looks like. But then I will pause for a couple of minutes to take some questions if we have any.
Guys, please ask your doubt if you have any. Sir, there is a question ki what will be the job opportunity after 3 years of ML engineer? As ML is is in the boom. But what is the job opportunity or the opportunity for an ML engineer after 3 years?
Sure. So that is a very good question. I will probably cover that towards the end of the talk. I have a dedicated section where I talk about in what direction is ML headed. There are two bifurcations happening at this point, and I would want to elaborate on both of them before I can talk about this particular point. But I have taken a note, so I'll definitely cover it towards the end.
So there is an other question on AI only. What will be the practical approach to learn AI? What will be the the practical approach to learn AI? Again, this is
Yes.
a question from you.
Again, a very good question. I'll cover. Let me talk about this very quickly, but I will cover it in detail towards the very end. AI, there are two aspects to it. One is the data side of things, in the sense the domain expertise. So the people who are able to build these AI models tend to be domain experts at the very beginning. For example, a person who is doing financial modeling is definitely a financial domain expert. You will never find a person who does not have background in finance going around building financial model because there is so much relying on it. Typically, it's also a collaboration. So there is a team which is very heavily invested on the finance side of things. They meet people who come from more machine learning side of things, but then there is a core practitioner would also want to build domain expertise over time, because AI and ML tend to be very specific to sectors. For example, I talked about finance. Let me consider another thing: self-driving cars. A person who is doing self-driving cars will end up being in that particular sector or adjacent sectors. Similarly, a person who wants to build domain expertise on advertisements, recommendation engines, they would tend to gravitate towards a domain, that particular domain or adjacent domains. So one thing you can do to help yourself is find a domain that you're interested in. Early on, you would not probably be very closely tied to a domain. You would want to move around for a bit, but over time, as you mature, you would definitely want to go towards a domain. So it's not to limit your domain when you begin learning. There, you should not be limited to any domains. Asking about a practical approach to learn AI, but you should understand that domain is a very important component of it, and therefore you should think of any machine learning problem in terms of a domain rather than an abstract machine learning problem, and then trying to learn machine learning for the sake of it. Pick finance, for example. Fine, you try out a few problems, you don't enjoy it, move on. Try out healthcare, try out self-driving cars, try out advertising industry. So, but then before picking a problem, pick the domain first, and then once you have picked the domain, you can try out different tools which are available. I have found this method to be the most incentivizing, because you understand what you're doing, how you're creating the impact. There is the other way as well. You can pick a particular platform. Say you want to learn TensorFlow. You learn TensorFlow, and then you find, in order to learn TensorFlow, you find problems that are probably some sample problems that has been solved using TensorFlow, and that's how you learn it. Now, this is from a very macro perspective. There are a few steps that come before it, which I will cover towards the end. Again, a point that is noted, and I'll talk in detail towards the end.
So, sir, there is a last question from you. What do you exactly mean by financial model? If we say financial model in 2 lines, so what is it?
In fact, I'll give you an example. I have an example planned. Very good
Yes.
question. I'll give you an example of what a model is, and you will be able to pretty much gauge it for yourself, what a model would look like. What I'll do is I'll also give you an example of a typical financial model. What I'm going to cover is an underwriting model. Underwriting is when you give out someone a loan, you have to decide whether the person is credit worthy for that loan or not. That process of deciding whether someone will get a loan is called underwriting. And this process, I'll give you a model, and I'll also probably cover, I'll give you an example of a financial model at that point as well. All right, so let me move on. Point,
Sure,
I
sir.
have noted all the three things, and I will probably cover all of them sometime down the top. Great, let's start. So let me cover. So the way I'm going to present this, I'll take one example from each of these steps in the workflow, and to give you a flavor of what the solution would look like. For example, smart ads are very popular right now. Google provides you an API where you can dynamically place your ad, provide characteristics of who do you want to show this ad to, provide them a broad target segment, and they will show the ad, and then basically over time you're able to see how your ad is performing. Using that, you are able to identify how much to bid for an ad. So there are three major questions you would want to answer. Who to bid for? So the four elements that some of the elements that you see here are a location of the customer. Google has locations pretty easily available, right? Everyone is on an Android phone. So Google will, you can provide Google that, hey, I want to target this particular city because I feel like my product is more relevant to this city. Similarly, you can tell people that, hey, my software only works on Android, so I would definitely not want to advertise to an Apple user. So again, Google runs on both Android and Apple, but you can tell Google that I want my ads to only go to an Android phone. Similarly, you can tell Google that, hey, my product is more relevant to a particular language, and therefore please target that. Now, how you arrive at all of these three things is often by modeling it. And again, something I'll cover down the line, an example of what a model looks like. But over time, you would want to identify who are you bidding for. So what is the profile of the customer that you are bidding for? The second question will be how much to bid. So, and this is probably a very important financial question, because if you keep outbidding you can keep outbidding everyone else. You can probably throw 1,000 rupees per click on an ad and you will get all the customers in the world. It's just that when a customer comes on your platform, they are only paying you maybe, giving you only maybe 500 rupees in revenue. Now it took you 1,000 rupees to bring that customer on your platform, and they are only giving you 500 rupees. It means that you're clearly in a loss. So, and your business is non-tenable at this point. The third question would be when to bid. It does not make sense to bid for a person who is probably a person who is a late worker. Probably not. You should not be advertising early morning yoga classes to them, because it definitely does not apply. That is a very important distinction between when do you want to bid for a particular customer. If you are enabling your ads at a particular time of the day, this might not just be time of the day. If your product is probably crackers, right, the fireworks, there is no reason for you to keep bidding it throughout the year. It's probably you probably have up and down seasons. Probably the marriage season in India, where a lot of marriages are happening, the firework utilization goes up. Then there are certain festivals where firework utilization goes up, definitely during Diwali. And this is where you have to identify when do you bid for all of these things. So these questions, if you answer them correctly, that reduces your what we call the customer acquisition cost. So if it can be measured in terms of, if you bring one customer onto your platform, how much money did you spend at the end of the day to bring that customer? And you can, for example, lending, it has been very standard to have that ballpark around 1,000 rupees to sometimes even I have seen it shoot up as high as 4,000 rupees to bring a customer who ends up getting a loan on your platform. Lending is a more complicated example, but there are easier ones. For example, software service, where a customer comes, they pay on your platform or they skip away. So customer acquisition cost is measured as people who ended up buying on your platform. How much did you spend per such individual? So that reduces your customer acquisition cost. And at the end of the day, if you are able to reduce your costs, and customer acquisition cost is a huge part of it, if you are able to reduce your costs, you will be able to provide cheaper services to the customer. And coming back to the point, the entire point of automating and making smart decisions is also to widen your customer base and not just cater to an elite crowd. You would also want to include people who don't give you a lot of revenue, but then this is a much bigger crowd. For example, in India, there are certain segments. There's the elite crowd, which is a very small segment in India, but then there is there are people who earn less, but then they are significantly higher in volume, and what they make up, what they lack in terms of that per customer revenue, they make up in terms of sheer volume. So instead of getting one customer who gives you 1,000 rupees, you're getting 10 customers who give you 100 rupees each. Just as good a deal, but now you have to make sure that you are very efficient in terms of your customer acquisition cost in how you are bringing that customer on board. So I understand this is a fairly complicated setup. Just wanted to give everyone a flavor. I'll wait now and take some questions if we will have.
I think no question is there, sir, till now. Sir, there is one question. Can we rely on AI for the financial model? Can we completely rely on AI only for the financial model?
Can we completely rely on it? Definitely no. And this was one of my key learnings at Goldman. We had we had offices worldwide, definitely some of the smartest people on the planet working on these problems. And no one at the end, there was, if it came to a major transaction, there was definitely a person on the end who gave some sort of sanity, did some sort of sanity check to make sure that the algorithm was not doing anything stupid. Now, there are exceptions. If the transaction is not very high value, you are okay making mistakes. So the problem ends up being, are you okay making a mistake with your transaction? If it's probably $100 million investment, you would not want to do that. So you would not want to automate something like that. Whereas if it's a 100 rupee transaction on a credit card, you're not really concerned whether it's a fraudulent transaction or not. So you can sort of rely on an algorithm. In fact, it's the other way around. If you started checking small transactions manually, it would actually hurt your business rather than helping it, because it becomes so expensive to do that.
I think, sir, we can carry on with the session because most of the students are having the doubt of career opportunity in AI and ML.
Okay, understood. All right. So let me. So if that is the case, let me do this. I will quickly skip through all of these slides because a lot of it might not be relevant. This would give everyone a flavor of what AI/ML related problems look like. But then I feel like career related questions should be given more time. People are more interested. So I will just do that.
Yes, sir.
So face-based KYC is very popular nowadays. We have all these features available. So you can look at a face, you can tell the age range, beard, person has a beard or not. At the end, if I have a couple of minutes, I would probably show you AWS recognition, which has exact same interface. All you have to do is upload an image and it will give you all the details. Then you have, so you can take a look when you are doing, someone uploads an image to you. There are certain checks you want to do, whether the image is clear or not. It can, so the automated algorithm will tell you, your AI algorithm will tell you what is the brightness, what is the sharpness. And if the sharpness is too low, you probably want to tell the person that something is wrong with your image. And it does not require a person to be looking, and that makes the entire process much faster. You can check the gender, you can check the approximate age. If someone has uploaded a PAN card, you can match the person's selfie with their PAN card, and that increases your accuracy for the KYC. Now, people asked, what does a model look like? A model is nothing but just a step of a process that you follow to make a decision. And so there are two things, algorithm and a model. So algorithm is the steps that you take to arrive at a decision, whereas a model is algorithm with certain numbers involved. For example, if you want to give someone a loan, this is an algorithm that you can follow. You have, if the person is less than equals to 40, and income is, so this dot is, think of it like a comma. So the person is earning 1,66,500, right? And then if the income age is less than 40, income is greater than 1,66,000, you would give them a loan. Whereas if their income is not so high, you would want to see other features in that person. What is their average monthly savings account, right? And then if it's beyond a certain level, you would give them that loan. If not, you would not give them that loan. Now, there is another section of the decision making. So if the person happens to be greater than 40 in age, you would want to see what is their monthly savings account. If they have it above a certain limit, you would give them a loan. If they do not have enough savings, you would want to see how long are they asking the loan for. Is it greater than 38 months or less than 38 months? And depending upon that, you would take a decision. So what I did here is, all of these are features that were given to me. Age is a feature, income is a feature, monthly savings account. These are the data points I have. And I created a step-by-step process of how I would arrive at who to give a loan to. And these numbers that you see, 40, 166, 657, all of these are the ones which I will arrive at in my learnings throughout the process. For example, if it turns out that I would want to treat people under 30, that is the part of the model. So model is actually the algorithm and the numbers associated with that algorithm. I will take questions at the end to make sure that people understand this better. Now, with respect to now coming to the career paths, there are two directions in which the entire industry is splitting into. One is the AutoML. AutoML is where you give a data set to the, it's provided by pretty much all the major cloud providers. You give them their data set. They have something called an optimization metric. So for example, if you are running a credit card transaction, fraudulent transaction detection, the optimization metric that you would give them is, I want to minimize the number of fraudulent transactions. So you give them the data set, you give them the optimization metric, and then you give them the constraints. So constraints is that if someone tries to do a transaction on a credit card, I would want to arrive at a decision within 10 or 20 seconds. Otherwise, it takes too long to swipe the card and then get the transaction done. People would have a problem with that. So you give them all of these three details, and they will come up with a model for you. And this is actually a no-code, sort of a no-code option where you don't have to get hardcore into programming. You can operate at a higher level, and then you will have a machine learning model which you can use at the end of the day. The other side, which is becoming very popular, and this is more popular on the highly customized and highly specialized domains, for example, healthcare. And then we have self-driving cars, where custom modeling is more popular. People train for 10 years in the world of analytics and data science and mathematics, and then they build their own models by hand, because they have a very deep understanding of both the domain and the mathematics behind building the model. And that allows them to come up with a model that cannot be come up with in an automated way. So in terms of career options, one decision you can take is, do you want to be very mathematically heavy? Do you really like the underlying elements of machine learning? Do you like programming in C++? And also understanding the mathematics, calculus behind AI/ML, because that is what is required to do very heavy customized modeling. The other side, which is becoming very popular, is that you become a domain expert, you understand how the data looks like, and then you just provide that data to your you figure out you cleanse the data, very clean data set. You figure out what do you want to optimize on and figure out the constraints, and you give it to a cloud provider, and then the cloud provider will do rest of the job for you. This is a much quicker way to ascend in AI/ML, but then at some point you will also start hitting a wall where you are not able to grow beyond a certain limit because you're not specializing. At that point, you would have to go into custom modeling. AutoML is a good way to start in the entire analytics space. But a lot of people who want to get into AI and ML ignore SQL. Business intelligence is how all of it started, how majority of the decisions are database decisions are being made right now. I would recommend heavily that anyone who is wanting to go into AI/ML should definitely get a good understanding of SQL first and what analytics looks like. There are powerful databases on AWS, Google, which allow you to do this very efficiently on terabytes and petabytes of data, and ridiculously fast because it has been optimized. It has been popular for so long that people have optimized it, and this is what powers majority of the data world right now. So I would recommend anyone who is to the question of what is a practical way to start learning and AI/ML. I would say start with data analytics, and that starts with SQL. So learn how a database works, learn the language of the database, which is SQL being the most popular one, and then from there on, I would recommend that move on to something like Python, and then start touching upon one of the frameworks, for instance, TensorFlow. So I think that covers my presentation. I would keep the time from now on to go deeper into any questions.
Sir, there is a question ki best platform for AI/ML.
Best platform. Okay. There are a few very powerful platforms. There are wrong answers to the question, but there are a few platforms which you cannot go wrong with. For example, and it also depends what you call a platform. So there are frameworks. So frameworks would include something like TensorFlow. You probably are not going to go wrong with it. And then there is PyTorch. So TensorFlow is more powered by Google side of things. PyTorch is on the Facebook. So, and then both have very strong communities. Both are doing pretty well. So you would be okay picking any of them. The more important part there would be, are you good at the fundamentals? At that level, probably what you pick. I know companies using both of them and doing just as well as any. So underlying thing is how good are you at AI and ML fundamentally, rather than what tool you use at the end of the day. The second part of platform could be what cloud provider are you using. So Google, for example, has optimized things more for TensorFlow. They have this TPU tensor processing unit, which is more optimized for TensorFlow. AWS has also recently launched their own hardware. But then at the end of the day, this is not something you would be worried on day one. The more important question for you would be, do you want to go on the AutoML side? In which case, now AutoML, certain platforms have certain benefits. I would recommend try out the Google one, and then others are fairly good at it as well. So if you pick that, the other bit is more mathematics heavy, and it takes longer to progress in that particular thing. So with respect to platform, pick any of the popular ones that you pick. You won't go wrong. In fact, you should try pretty much all of them and then make a decision for yourself. Is image processing a good career path? Yeah, I'm getting that. Sorry, Sarthak. So I'll just continue taking the questions.
No problem.
Is image processing? Absolutely. It's one of the hottest areas right now. What has happened is, in the last few years, the algorithms behind image processing have become so sophisticated that it's taking longer and longer for people to come up with new stuff. For example, if you want to make a breakthrough in image processing right now, at this point, It'll take you 10 years of research to do that. And both Google and, for example, let me do this. If we have, I'll take a couple of minutes and let me just, Sarthak, I'm hoping you're able to see my screen, right?
Yes, sir, I'm able to see your screen.
Okay, let me switch to AWS recognition, which I have open. Now, this is this is free, by the way. AWS recognition, you can just log in, create your own AWS account, and then just go to Amazon recognition and demos. They will allow you to do a demo of what image processing looks like. You can just upload, let me upload an image. So I'm doing facial analysis. So in this case, they have given a sample image. They're telling me looks like a face, 99.9% accuracy. The person looks between 21 and 30 years, 33 years, smiling, appears to be happy, and they are wearing glasses and they are telling this with 99.9% accuracy. Now let me upload an image of mine. It will be interesting how old it says I am. Let's see. Okay, I just uploaded. All right, so fairly accurate. I mean, looks like a face clearly. Appears to be male with a 98.6% accuracy. I'm smiling in the image, and it's very confident about that. A 99.1%. Appears to be happy. Yeah, I was traveling. I was pretty happy. I'm definitely not wearing glasses. It's able to see my eyes. And age range, yes, that's. It probably thinks I'm at this point. I think I was 24, so it's bang right in the middle. So it got the age range also very accurate. So yep. So this is an example of what is already there. People have already built it as an API. So all you have to do is use this Amazon interface to solve these sort of problems that you have. If you want to solve more complicated problems that requires more study, a lot more study. So you would probably, I would recommend definitely consider masters if you want to build your own image recognition algorithms. But if you are using an existing platform, you can make a lot of impact. For example, if you use recognition, you can go into an industry and make a lot of impact from day one, just because these platforms have created such an amazing tooling for you. So, just to conclude that, two ways that you can go here, again, comes back to, do you want to use an existing infrastructure to make an impact in terms of image processing? You can use all of these tools, be very good at these tools, make an impact from day one, or you can go deeper into it, masters, probably go very deep into the mathematics of the thing. Sarthak, could you repeat that, the last question? Yes, I see it. Please clear the borderline where we can differentiate between AI and ML. Okay, so artificial intelligence is an outcome. Artificial intelligence looks like it has intelligence in some way. So anything that it's up to you what you call artificial intelligence, what you call intelligence, right? For example, would you call a calculator intelligent because it can add two numbers? It's pretty smart. It can add pretty big numbers. Would you call it intelligent in that sense? Then there is a sentient being. Is that like, does it have this consciousness? We are not going into that philosophical problem. But in terms of artificial intelligence, it's completely on your definition, whereas machine learning is more standardized. Machine learning is a process where a machine can get better in problem solving over time, using the data it gets, the result it sees over time. For example, if you run an algorithm, you give it 10 problems, it solves it in a particular way. Maybe it got 7 out of 10 right. Next time you tell that algorithm, hey, you got only 7 out of 10 right. And using that information, it can get better. It gets 8 out of 10 right after that. And you tell the algorithm, hey, this time you did better, but you got 8 out of 10. And these are the mistakes that you did. Now the algorithm improves automatically. Every machine learning algorithm has that feature, is that it improves not doesn't necessarily improve, but it tries to improve on every step. So ML is a more machine learning, is that where machine tries to improve over time, is a more standardized nomenclature, whereas artificial intelligence ends up being more philosophical, whether you include adding numbers as intelligence or not. ML is the more standardized term in that sense. Hope that clarifies. Feel free to. Okay. Many other industries, people are saying that web development will be there and AI/ML is just a spike which will go down. That is an interesting question. I could also argue the other way around, is that will there be web development at some point where AI and ML become so powerful that all you have to do is give a broad description of your problem to an algorithm and the algorithm will design your website for you, right? Probably not going to happen day one, not even close. But the sort of problems that are being solved by AI and ML, it's definitely not a spike. The impact AI and ML is very real. I have been in the industry. I have seen how long it took to process a loan until maybe 10 years back. And now the processing cost has come significantly down. And that is a very real change. And that will continue to drive innovation in the industry, where loans will become cheaper and cheaper. The accessibility will become more just because of that. And the impact will be dramatic. So it's definitely not a spike. If at all, it can only go up from here. The question could be in terms of social impact, whether it's a good thing that AI and ML is dominating so much. Maybe not. There are issues around automating too much. So if all the cars are driverless, you have a lot of people who don't have jobs right now, people who have not trained in anything else. In the long term, people will get retrained. There is the counter argument, but it's in terms of whether it's a spike and how it compares to web development, AI and ML are here to stay and will continue making a big impact.
So I think we are done with the questions, and thank you for the great session we have today. And thank you very much from the behalf of Incubate and Dot Questionmark. I would love if we have a session again sometime. And guys, if you like the session, I will share a LinkedIn form. So do comment your feedback of this session, and thank you very much, sir. Do follow, sir. If you have any doubt regarding this session, you can ask to sir on their LinkedIn account. So I will share the LinkedIn ID of sir very soon. Give me 2 minutes. I will share.
Great. I'll share the presentation with you, Sarthak, and maybe people who are interested can also get that from Sarthak.
Okay, sure, sir, sure. We will. Thank you very much, sir.
All right.
And guys, wait for a few minutes. I will share feedback form. You can fill that form. Thank you very
Yeah,
much, sir, for this
that'll be
session.
great. If everyone could take a minute, I love to improve, and I understand that I make a lot of mistakes. Something that we can learn from machine learning is constantly taking feedback. So Sarthak, it would be great if you can share the feedback, and it would be very much appreciated if people who like the presentation could mention what they liked about it, and more so people who did not like certain parts, found something missing. Please take a minute to give me the feedback. That'll help me improve, and it'll be much appreciated.
Okay, great. So, guys, I have shared the feedback form in the chat section. Go and fill this feedback form. So I will get back to you with this feedback form in next 2 to 3 hours. So thank you for this lovely session. Again, I am very much thankful on the behalf of Dot Questionmark and Incubate IND. Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Thank you, Sarthak. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Guys, wait for a few minutes. I am sharing the feedback form. Wait for a few minutes. Now you can check the feedback form. I think it is clearly visible. Please, guys, fill this feedback form, and I am sharing the LinkedIn post too in the group. So please go and comment over the LinkedIn post. It will be a good reach for you. And how you like the session, please tell us on the comment section. Certificate will be given on the basis of this feedback form. Na? We will get your email ID and your name in this response form. I think all we can end up with this session. Please fill this form, and I have shared the LinkedIn link also. Please go and comment on LinkedIn how you like the session. It will motivate us and help you to increase the reach. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for this session. Hope you like the session. Today we have a quiz night at 8 o'clock. So stay tuned, and we will share all the info regarding quiz night and the group itself. Thank you. Bye bye. See ya.